Hello, welcome to Meet the Author, sponsored by the Author Event Network in partnership with the Bremerton Public Access Television. I'm your host, Guy Morris. Author Event Network is a nonprofit association of local authors who sign books at local festivals, fairs, and events. Our guest today is Lynne Pearson, romance author. Hello, Lynne. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
I'm so glad to meet you. This is so good. You're a new author in our group, and this is my first time meeting you, and I'm excited to have this conversation.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to start with some basic stuff. So I always like to start with, we both know that being an author is not a is not at the top 10 moneymaker kind of careers. What inspired you to become an author?
Well, I think probably like most authors, I've been a reader all my life. And the highlight of my week when I was a kid was my dad taking us to the library. And you know, when you made that step from being in the kids section to the adult section, I was so thrilled. But then I discovered they didn't have picture books in the adult section, so I was a little bummed out by that. But my day job
It depends on which section of the adult section.
That is true. That is true. My day job is editing fiction. So I spend my days in other people's books. And at some point in time, I wanted to experience firsthand what it's like to write a book from start to finish and then hand your baby over to an editor, and hopefully they don't eviscerate it. And was it a fabulous experience? It took me a while to realize that I was not perfect. It was a hard thing to deal with. But it was I really enjoyed the process of getting the stories out of my head and onto paper, that it's just, it's addictive. Yeah, it right? Is. Yeah. You write one and then you want to go on to another one, or you're the kind of writer that just never wants that particular book to end, and I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's interesting. So what was there a particular story that inspired you? Said, I've got to write about that story.
Oddly enough,
or was it just the process of writing and trying to say, well, what would I write about? How did that first step go for you?
Well, even though it is the fourth book that I published, this was the first story that I wrote.
Holiday Headaches.
Nope. Oh. Hashtag Hot and Handy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so the premise is an ex-con who can't find work, and he is relying upon the good heart of his mother's best friend, who is a new widow, and she wants to stay in her home, but she wants to renovate it so that she can take some tenants. So Vincent, who is her tenant, when he was in prison, he learned how to do general contracting. So to pay for his room and board, he rented her house for her. And so the idea is I just wanted this woman to have kind of like a second chance after losing her husband. And that was a situation that got me going. So I wrote that book, shoved it in a drawer for a few years, and then pulled it out a couple years ago, dusted it off, and decided it wasn't crap after all, and redid it.
Well, you know, I love, my favorite quote of all the authors I've ever listened to was Stephen King. He said, let's face it, all first drafts are crap.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that relieves so much pressure. You know, you think you have to write this masterpiece right off the top of your head, and you forget the fact that it's a process. It's iterative. You can do other versions. You can fix. You can go back. You can add. You can delete. You can. It's like a sculpture. It's never done the first time. It's always a process of layering.
And I think sometimes what happens with authors is that they think that it has to be perfect right away. They don't understand that, you know, the best thing to do is to get that story out of your head right away, then breathe, and then pull it out of the drawer again and go through it.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us, you're obviously a very prolific romance author. Tell us what inspired you to pick that genre, and do you plan on writing any other genres, or you're pretty happy with this one?
Oddly enough, it was my dad who introduced me to romance.
Really?
He would bring home the old Harlequins. Do you remember the Harlequins from the early 70s? Right? They all had a very similar look about them and basically the same plot. And I realized that I like stories that have a happy ever after.
Okay.
And that's just what I gravitate towards. I like stories that make me feel good. Yes, I read murder mysteries. I don't particularly like psychothriller killers, so I'm not going to write that, right? So I want stories that make me feel good when I'm writing them and make readers feel good when they're reading them.
Okay, interesting. That's a great way, and you get to kind of live a romantic life in your head.
Absolutely.
Wow. Why do you consider the key themes for your readers? So romance is the basic genre, but
Yes.
what are your key themes, and what do your readers discover in your books?
The thing about romance is that they're about hope. You'll have people who are lonely, scared, often scarred, and they're willing to take a chance on starting a relationship when maybe they've had really crappy relationships in the past, and so they're willing to try something new. And the other thing that romance is it's about coming together, and it's not just the couple. It's building a community. It's me taking on your community and you taking on my community and hopefully making something better. I love that aspect of coming together, because it's being alone is not always good.
Yeah.
You know, we are better together.
We are. That's definitely true. And I write thrillers, and sometimes I think the biggest challenge in thrillers is to create enough depth of character where you're getting that relationship dynamic, that you're not getting lost in the plot so that the characters become just props.
Yeah.
And so the balance between the two is really important. So the theme is really hope. The people that have been scarred, finding new hope in new opportunities. I love that. Tell us about your primary set of characters, or do you change them throughout the books?
They change. So I've got 2 different series that I have here. So the one closest to you, that is the Planners and Dreamers series. And they are closed door contemporary romances, and they are interconnected standalones. That means that you don't necessarily need to read them in order, but the characters from the second book, Fraudulent Trust, they're going to show up in the very first book. You're going to get introduced there. And the same way as the characters from this one are going to show up in that one there. Now,
do events in each of the books add to sort of the backstories of the next books, or do you basically start over?
Basically start over.
Okay.
It might be in the same world, like they might, visit the same coffee shop or something along those lines, or they greet each other on the road, but it's their story in and of itself.
Okay.
So that's all that by the
Okay, excellent. So where are these stories based then?
So
Do you have locations?
The Planners and Dreamers series, they are set in Seattle, and you might notice because there's a little Space Needle in the corner of each.
Oh yeah, public market, a little Space Needle there.
Yep, and I actually have a new cover coming out for Grand Gestures because it's their birthday right this month, and it's going to have the Seattle skyline in it yet. But I haven't gotten the print copies yet for that particular one.
Oh, that's wonderful. So what about the other series then?
So these ones here, this is the Keeney Builds series, and it is contemporary small-town steamy romance. So whereas those are closed door, nothing happens on the page, it does happen on the page.
So I was going to ask you about those terms. So I realize the romance genre has all these little terms.
Oh my goodness, yes.
It's like a taxonomy of, So closed door means
there's no sex on the page.
There's no sex on the page. It's all innuendo.
Yep.
Steamy means there's a little bit of kissing or
no, full contact.
Full contact. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
with the doors wide open.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And did you know there's different spice levels in romance?
I'm a spicy guy, but I didn't really think it. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Hope that didn't hurt anybody. I just touched my mic. I'm a spicy guy, but I didn't really think about spicy in romance. So, do they have terms for the spicy?
Well, basically,
Caliente?
On the pepper level, they'll judge them, right?
Okay.
And the interesting thing, though, is it's really kind of subjective. Because your tolerance level is going to be different than mine. Like, so when we're talking about hot sauces, right? You're going to say, oh, this is really mild, and you'll give it to me, and I think it's going to blow steam out of my ear, right? And that's the same way with romance.
Got it.
So I don't think they're terribly spicy, but somebody else might consider it that way.
Okay. So we'll have to put a little meter on,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Worry about the kids at the events here. So what were your personal experiences that compelled you to write? And do you, all authors by compulsion put some of themselves, some of their experiences into their books without revealing too much? This is a public show. How much of Lynne winds up in these books?
Okay, now there's going to be little events and little circumstances that come from real life, and they may not necessarily be my experiences, but stories that have been in my family and friends. It's like, yeah, that's going into a book. Because, you know, people say to you, this needs to go into the next book you write, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. But for the most part, they are not about me. Although people will say, I can see you and hear you in your books. I don't see it. Yes, exactly.
You're lending your voice, but not necessarily the experiences.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Just for the record.
Yeah.
Now tell us about your current titles. We've already talked about that. Tilled Them in a Way. Now, what do you have planned next?
So I hadn't really anticipated doing so, but there is a fourth book in the Keeney Build series coming out, and I've just started writing it. And my husband has suggested a title. I'm not 100% sold on it yet.
Okay.
I don't want to give him bragging rights, but it's going to take place around. It's going to take place right around Christmas.
Okay.
And it's going to be the community Christmas pageant.
Okay.
And this young woman who is she's. Do you know the phrase the Seattle Freeze?
The Seattle Freeze, no.
So the Seattle Freeze is this concept that when people move to the Pacific Northwest, they're greeted politely, but they're not incorporated into the community. They find that we're a little on the standoffish side, kind of thing. So this young woman moves here from east of the mountains, and she's having a hard time making friends and fitting in. So she volunteers to run the community pageant as a way to incorporate and make friends and that kind of thing, not realizing how much politics is involved in small communities.
Bad idea.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So lots of interesting things are going to happen to her. So that's what's happening next. And I just sent a book to my editor the other day, and hopefully she's not going to make me cry. And it is a totally different book than these. It's a standalone, and
I love that.
yeah, and it's a story about two women. They've been best friends forever, and they work in the juvenile justice system, and they want to start they're doing a pilot project where they have a house where they bring in teenage girls who are having issues, and they're trying to get them through high school by giving them a stable environment in which to live in. Rosalie is the main character, and something happens to her. She's totally kiboshed when she finds out that her mother has incurred a $15 million debt. And so she doesn't sign the lease for the house that they're supposed to bring these girls, so she winds up moving her best friend and these three troubled teenage girls into her childhood home, which happens to be in the most exclusive neighborhood in Seattle. And what can possibly go wrong? So, yeah.
I know some of the guys who used to work in some of those neighborhoods.
Yes.
So, you know, I can imagine.
Yes.
Only imagine.
Yes.
Well, that sounds interesting. I think I love it because it's a deviation from your norm. I think it's always refreshing to say, okay, I've got this genre pretty well down. I want to stretch my wings.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's always refreshing to do. And then sometimes that becomes a whole new thread.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes a whole new series in itself.
Well, and then the interesting thing is I wrote this book in first person, which I've never done before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's different. And so
what's your normal?
Third person.
Okay.
And so sometimes I'd be working on another book, and I'd be writing it in first person. It's like, no, slap your hand. You're in the wrong book.
Yeah.
You know, this is why I usually only work on one book at a time, because I just don't have the bandwidth to work on multiple things at once.
I can see that. I'm working on two books at once right now because they're the two final books in a series, and I'm trying to get the story arc between them, without dropping too much between them, where they can kind of, there's been sort of a cliffhanger in the last one, so it's leading in. So, but you're right. I have one that's a historical thriller. I can't imagine working on that with my contemporary AI thrillers. It would just be too much. And I actually had to stop writing my thrillers this year to write some nonfiction. So I absolutely understand that's the case.
I have one of my writing partners, at one point in time, he had 7 different projects on the go. And he would literally roll, I think he had an 8-sided dice, to see which one he was going to work on that day. I'm like, dude, no, that's not me.
That's a little schizophrenic for my taste. Is his name Sybil? So where do you get so much imagination, so many things? Where do you get your sources of imagination? Where do you get your inspiration from? What draws you to say, "Oh my gosh, I've got to write about that"? How do you pick that up? I know you mentioned family and friends, but there's got to be something else.
Well, there's just, let's say, like, you're at the gym and you see 2 people arguing over who gets to use the machine at this particular time. And then I just kind of look at that and I go, well, what if we take that and it turns into something else, right? And so there'll be something in the newspaper and I'll go, well, now that's interesting. What could we do with that, right? And interestingly enough, when we bandy around ideas, my friends and I usually say, and then there's going to be a dead body, but I have yet to write a murder. Yeah.
Well, I tell all my friends who write murder mysteries that for the rest of us, it's just research.
Yes, absolutely. And maybe I don't want my search history to look bad,
exactly.
Right?
I'll tell you about mine later. It's a long story. So obviously your target audience is young women and single women and married women, just women.
My target audience is women of a certain age who with lots of lived experience.
Okay.
Right? And they like romance novels, but they don't necessarily read romance exclusively.
Yeah.
Right? They want their books where the characters are realistic.
Yeah.
And they've had challenging experiences happen to them, and they could be a similar experience that's happened to my readers.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
And so they want stories with a lot of heart, some heat, and definitely humor if they're coming to me.
Yeah, yeah. I find that humor is a real key to make every story palatable. Now, do you have a process in your writing? So once you get a concept, how do you go about saying, okay, are you a pantser or a plotter?
Probably a bit of both.
Okay.
I do start with the most basic outline possible, and it always starts with the character.
Okay.
Because I think the best books are about the character and what they go through. And so I figure out, okay, what is the what if situation? And then who is my character? How did they get there? I figure out what their backstory is. And were they a left-handed middle child? Oh, that's me. I'm the left-handed middle child. But what is it that got them to that situation? And then from there, I figure out, well, where am I going to set this book? And who is going to be the opposing character? And that. And then I figure it out along that way. My outlines are in pencil. Because they're suggestions, and I have a tendency to deviate, which I think happens to everybody, right?
Absolutely, you have to.
And I have to know where the story is going to end. Yeah. I mean, it's not enough to say that they're going to live happy ever after, right?
Right.
It's what is the change in their circumstances that's going to happen with that.
Yeah, excellent.
And then when I've got this figured out, then I put my character up in a tree and I throw rocks at them. Because when they do make it to that happy ever after, I want them to be a little bruised and a little, bloodied. Got
it. So I like that. Okay, that's a good approach. And I like the flexibility and the character approach. And do you, you said you never include murders. That's good if you're going to have romance that can tend to kill the mood.
Yeah. No. The romantic suspense and romantic thrillers are a big, big deal. Guy, I need to extend your TBR for you.
You do. What can I say? 40 years in geekdom, so I didn't have much time for romance in my life, I'm afraid. So I've got your target audience. Right now. What do you love about being an author?
Okay. The first draft is hard.
Yeah.
Even though I've got this idea of what I want to write, actually putting it on that blank page is difficult. That's when I'm going to clean the refrigerator and organize my socks and alphabetize the spice drawer while I'm figuring out what it is I'm going to put on the page.
Yeah.
It takes me a while to do that. I like the revision process.
Yeah.
I like looking at the, even if it's just the paragraphs that I wrote the day before, and I look at them and I go, okay, yeah, that's good, or no, you could do that better, right? And there's a phrase that comes around, you can't edit a blank page.
Yeah.
And so you have to keep on writing. I don't necessarily like getting feedback from people unless it's, of course, oh my God, Lynne, it's the most fabulous thing you've ever written. But I understand that I have to take feedback and I have to figure out how to make my books as good as possible.
Yeah.
And I can't do that unless I'm willing to accept that criticism.
Yeah, exactly. I worked in Fortune 500, and one of the things that we learned there is that there's no superstars, there's great teams, and that nothing good can't be better by somebody else looking at it. And you get used to, I mean, out of college, you're a little bumpy when you're getting all this criticism of why, let's do this, let's change that, what about this, we could add this here, what about that there. But after a while, you start to realize you thrive on it. And so I'm always disappointed when my beta readers come back and tell me only good stuff. It's like, oh, guys, you're missing the point. How am I going to get better unless you tell me where you bumped, where you stumbled, where you stalled, where you wanted to skip the page? That's what I need to know.
Exactly.
You know, tell me all the crap that doesn't work, 'cause that's what I need to fix.
Well, and the thing is we've got the story in our heads, but it doesn't necessarily make it onto the page. So we've got a perfectly good reason as to why they hid that knife under the mattress.
Yeah, exactly.
But if we haven't explained it well enough, you know, our readers, we don't want them scratching their heads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we have time for one more question. Tell us what drew you to Author Event Network and what you're hoping to get out of the experience.
I was fortunate enough to be at a bookstore where there were two other authors selling their books, and they happened to both belong to Author Event Network. And they were telling me about the organization. I'm like, that sounds like a fabulous idea. Because again, I do believe in collaboration, not competition, and we draw energy from each other when we can work together. And so this is my first experience with Author Event Network, and I'm looking forward to this summer when I'll be going to some of the fairs and meeting the other authors.
I think you're going to learn that you really enjoy it. It's a great community. It's a very supportive author community, and we're focused on helping everybody sell and be successful. And it was a gamble. It was an experiment to start, but I'm pleased that I've been able to meet and work with great authors like yourself.
Yeah, and hopefully I'm not going to do something to get kicked to the curb, because that would just make me sad.
There's a couple of no-nos, but I'm sure you'll do fine. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching Meet the Author. Come to meet all of the fabulous AEN authors during the summer season here in Seattle and Portland, and keep on reading.